The early morning sun kisses the red earth of Nwokocha town. A rooster crows. Palm trees sway gently in the wind. Traders begin to open their stalls. But at the grandest house on the hill, there is silence. A silence so heavy, even the birds do not sing near it. They called him Chief Ozoemena, the one who does not forget. And indeed he never forgot a debt or a grudge. Once the poorest palm wine tapper in the village, Chief Ozoemena had risen to become the richest man in 3 states. People said he could buy the sky if he wanted. He owned the land, the oil beneath it, and the roads that crossed over it. Every deal, every contract, every corner shop somehow echoed his name. But now, he was dead, and no one cried, not his children. They were too busy fighting over his will. Not his wives. They were too scared of each other to speak. Not even the villagers, because Chief Ozoemena, though feared, was never loved. He had died, surrounded by gold and granite, but not one soul by his bedside. The town elders called a gathering. As tradition demanded, a griot, a storyteller, would recount the life of the deceased. But no one volunteered. They feared his spirit might rise and curse them for speaking the truth. That's when a voice rose from the back of the crowd. I will speak. It was a young man, maybe 22. Lean, dusty feet, eyes like fire. His name? Ikenna. People whispered. Who is he? He was the boy the chief once chased away from his gate. No, the one whose mother died waiting in his queue. Now, here he was, standing before the villagers, holding a wooden staff, carved with symbols no one could read anymore. Ikenna cleared his throat. The wind quieted, and he began. Once there was a man who believed that worth could be measured in coins. His name was Ozoemena, a boy born into hunger, raised by a father who traded his yams for debt, and a mother who sold ground nuts in the hot sun until her back bent like a question mark. He swore he would never be poor again. And he wasn't. He worked harder than 10 men, slept less than the moon, bought his first plot of land before he could spell his own name. But with every coin he gained, he lost something. He lost kindness when he refused to give his old teacher medicine. He lost honor when he evicted his uncle for missing rent. He lost peace when he built a mansion with 20 rooms, but slept alone. And he lost respect the day he told a hungry widow, "This is not a charity, it's business." By now, the crowd was silent. Even the leaves had stopped rustling. Chief Ozoemena was rich, Ikenna continued. So rich he paved his driveway with imported stone. But when the floods came, it was the poor man's mud house that stood. He looked up, voice steady. He built schools, but charged so much, only strangers could attend. He built hospitals, but treated the sick like burdens. He gave to churches, but refused to forgive. There was a pause. Then an old woman stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "I remember," she whispered. "I begged him for help. My daughter was dying. He said, 'Go and pray. I am not God.'" Another villager spoke. "He promised to sponsor our market, then taxed every stall." One by one, the village gave their stories, not of joy or gratitude, but of wounds, of a man who gained everything, yet touched no one. Ikenna raised the staff, and so he died, with no hand to hold him, no soul to mourn him, only the echoes of a name shouted in fear, not love. The villagers bowed their heads. A dog howled in the distance. Then came the final words. "In our land," Ikenna said, "a man's true wealth is not what he builds, but who remembers him when he is gone. Not whose land he owns, but whose lives he lifted. He pointed to the grand marble grave. You see this? It is deep enough to bury his body, but not the truth. He turned to leave, and as he walked away, the wind picked up. The kind of wind that clears dust, that blows secrets into light, that whispers, remember? Chief Ozoemena lived with everything and died with nothing. Because in the end, the greatest riches are not measured in gold, but in goodness. The marble gates of Chief Ozoemena's mansion creak open, not for mourners, but for lawyers. Black-suited men with files thick as drums. Inside, the air is tight with perfume, sweat, and silent tension. The family waits, not for healing, but for a number, for the final tally of what the chief left behind. The mansion was full, but empty. 4 wives sat on separate cushions, each with eyes that never met. 7 children, some born of the same mother, others from hidden beds, sat like strangers in court. And in the center, a man in a fine grey suit tapped a document. The will is ready. Outside the gate, the villagers gathered like smoke. No one dared enter, but everyone wanted to know who would inherit the kingdom of the king who touched no heart. Inside, the lawyer began to read. To my eldest son, Nwokocha, who never visited me unless he needed money, I leave my company. May it keep you too busy to betray your own sons. To my second wife, Adan, who poisoned my name with sweet words, I leave my beach house. May the sea remind you how cold a heart can be. Gasps, eyes darted, whispers slithered. This wasn't a will. This was a judgment. The lawyer kept reading. To those who fought over my land before I was even in the ground, I leave nothing, because the earth remembers who plants seeds and who tramples roots. Then came the silence. Then, the final name. And to the boy I once turned away, the one whose mother died waiting at my gate, I leave my journals, my staff, and the truth. Let him carry the weight I could not. The room erupted. Who is this boy? He's not family. That's nonsense. Witchcraft. But the lawyer simply pointed to the door, and there stood Ikenna, dust still on his feet, fire still in his eyes, and in his hands, the carved staff of Ozoemena. He walked in, unshaken. The wives glared. The children hissed. But Ikenna looked at no one. He approached the table, took the small wooden chest the lawyer handed him, and bowed. Not in submission, but in farewell. And just like that, he left. Days passed. The children fought. Lawyers argued. The companies fell into scandal. The lands were frozen by courts. The mansion, once a fortress, was raided by debts the chief had hidden. And in the end, those who fought over his wealth were left with ashes. But Ikenna, he sat beneath a mango tree at the edge of the village, reading the journals. In them were stories never told, confessions, regrets, secrets about land he stole, people he betrayed, a daughter he never claimed, a brother he ruined. Each page bled with the sorrow of a man who gained the world and lost his soul. At the end of one entry, Ozoemena wrote, I thought riches would make them love me. I did not know love must be given first. Ikenna closed the journal. Tears lined his face, not for the man, but for the lesson. He stood, walked to the village square, and raised the staff. I will not inherit this man's gold, he said. I will not inherit his power, but I will inherit his truth. From that day, Ikenna used the journals to return the stolen lands, to forgive the debts, to fund the market the chief once taxed. He opened a school and named it after the chief's mother. He turned a name once feared into a legacy remembered, not because he was born of him, but because he chose the harder road, redemption. In the end, The richest man left nothing but lessons, and it was the poor boy he once ignored who became the true heir. Because wealth fades, but wisdom is eternal. Morning dew glistens on the rooftops of Nwokocha. Children laugh as they walk to school, the school that once existed only in the dreams of their parents. A new sign hangs at the gate, the Ozoemena Memorial School. Beneath it, carved in wood, are the words, "Wealth is who you lift, not what you keep." Ikenna stood at the entrance, watching them. Every day since the chief's burial, he had worked, not to build monuments, but to repair damage, not with bricks, but with truth. He returned land to the poor, cancelled fraudulent taxes, apologized where the chief never had, and slowly, the name Ozoemena changed, not erased, but rebuilt, from a curse to a caution, from a warning to a lesson. But there was one question that never left Ikenna's heart. Why him? Why had Chief Ozoemena, a man who had once looked through him like dust on glass, left him his journals, his secrets, his staff? The answer came one stormy evening, when a knock came at his door. It was an old man, wrapped in a tattered wrapper, holding a small, sealed envelope. "I was his steward," he said. "I served him when even the lawyers feared him. He gave this to me before he died. Said I should give it to you when you were ready." Ikenna opened the envelope. Inside, a letter, written in Ozoemena's sharp, deliberate handwriting. "To the boy I wronged, and the only one who faced me with fire in his eyes. You are more than you know. You carry my name, because you carry my blood." Ikenna froze. The page trembled in his hands. "Your mother, her name was Ngozi. We were young, stupid, poor. I left her when the weight of responsibility scared me more than poverty ever did. She never asked me for anything, not even when she was dying. But I saw you. Once, you were a child, playing in the dirt with a stick, drawing animals. You smiled like someone who didn't know what the world could do to you. And that smile haunted me every year after. I built an empire, but the only thing I could never build was peace. I don't ask you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I ask you, carry this name better than I did. You are the son of a broken man, but you don't have to be broken. Ikenna Ozoemena." The wind blew through the room like a whisper. Ikenna closed the letter. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat, silent, like the earth before the first rain. Days passed. He said nothing to anyone, but the villagers noticed something different. He no longer walked with just purpose, but with peace. He no longer spoke of the chief as a tyrant, but as a man who lost his way. He still returned the land, still forgave the debts, still rebuilt what was ruined. But now, he did it not just to correct history, but to transform legacy. One evening, he walked to the river where his mother used to wash clothes. He placed the letter on a leaf and watched it float away. A slow smile rose on his face, and for the first time since his mother died, he felt whole, not because he had claimed his inheritance, but because he had rewritten its meaning. Chief Ozoemena died with everything and nothing, but in his final act, he gave the one thing he never could in life, truth. And the boy who was once ignored became the man who was remembered. Because legacy is not what we leave behind in gold. It is who we lift when we think no one is watching. This was the story of the richest man who died with nothing.